Hey, welcome to the latest video blog. Good to have you with us here. I'm heading off this Sunday to drive the new Volkswagen Golf Sport Wagon, station wagon really. And I decided to come up with an idea. You can ask Volkswagen any questions you want. I have so much interest in the Volkswagen Golf on all of these video blogs. I figured, hey, send the questions in. Two ways to do it. You can go to Twitter at Driving with Zack, get a Twitter question in, or go to Motormouth Canada. First of all, like that. I'm getting a lot more likes, and people seem to really like putting the questions on Facebook because most people have Facebook, and you can do a much longer question than you can on Twitter. So follow along both at Motormouth Canada and at Driving with Zack. All right, let's get into the questions here. This one comes from Azwa Jolly. He says, I'm watched almost all of your videos. I have to say, well done. I live in Canada too, and I'm always afraid of owning one of these German cars, such as Audi, BMW, Porsche, because people say they have poor reliability. I've noticed in one of your videos, you mentioned that you have owned some German cars. I just want to know if they're really unreliable, or is it just a myth? I'm also on average, how much does it cost to maintain per year if you own from brand new? I've owned, for the most part, pretty much exclusively German cars. I've had one Chevrolet that I owned. I owned an S10 pickup truck years ago, and I owned a Toyota Celica GT back in the 80s. It was my dad's car. I bought it off him, but pretty much everything I've owned has been German. And I believe, as an auto reviewer, that German cars really are the leaders when it comes to technology and innovation, and everybody follows along. Now, that's not always the case in every aspect, but the Germans really do make fantastic cars. I've owned 5 BMWs, I've owned about 6 Volkswagens, I've owned 3 Porsches, so those have been my main, and now we have an Audi. Yeah, I find that these cars are very reliable when they're newer. When they get older, they do require more maintenance. BMWs, in my opinion, when they're out of warranty, you are always looking at small, niggly little things that need repaired. It's never big things like the engine and the transmission. It's small things like in my older BMWs, it'd be like the key actuator, you know, the fan for the blower, for the heater, small things, but they can become very expensive. So my best advice to anybody is with these cars is make sure that they're under warranty as long as you can get them under warranty, because they are, in my opinion, some of the best cars to drive. And when they're out of warranty, always keep in mind that it's going to cost you a little bit more to have the privilege to drive these cars. Of the cars that I've owned, Porsche, hands down, has been the most reliable. They make fantastic cars, and have really had very, very few issues owning Porsches. I've had 3 of them, and 2 of them were over 15 years old and still very, very reliable. The Audi is fairly new, it's been reliable. The BMWs have been the most problematic, but it's also some of the most rewarding cars to own. So there you go. How much should you budget? I would budget about $2,000 a year over the lifespan of the car. Maintenance can be more expensive. They use synthetic oil. A lot of these cars use a lot of oil, meaning that the reservoirs are much, much bigger. And yeah, so I would budget between $1,500 and $2,000 a year to own a German car. Maybe more than a Japanese car or American car, but it's a different driving experience. Hey, Zach, I'm selling, if selling or buying used, what's the best resource for valuing a vehicle? Canadian Red Book valuations or Canadian Black Book? Where are the sources collected for their data? For example, I'm currently selling a vehicle on behalf of my brother on Kijiji. The response is always quote Canadian Black Book, and the prices range depending on the vehicles. I've had a chance to reference Canadian Black Book, which compiles more accurate data. Can you shed some light on the topic during your next video blog? So what's happening, he goes on to say that people are coming in and quoting the Canadian Black Book price for the price of the vehicle, and he can't go lower than that. The Canadian Black Book is a great resource, and it's open to the public. It used to only be open to the dealers, canadianblackbook.com. You can look at the valuations. Now remember, as he points out, these are trade-in prices. This is what a dealer would pay for your car if they're going to trade it in. If you're going to retail the car, selling it on your own, it should be about 15% higher. What I always like to do is go to places like Kijiji and Craigslist and Auto Trader and Driving.ca and Wheels and all of those major buckets of used vehicles and look at what the average asking price is. And basically put your car in there at that price. People have woken up and found out that you can use this Canadian Black Book, and they're using that trade-in price to try and buy these cars retail. So if anybody's coming to you and saying, well, the Canadian Black Book says it's only worth 10 and you're asking, 13, well, stick by your guns and tell them that that's the trade-in price, not the retail price. And here's the thing is, used cars in Canada should actually be holding their value quite nicely now. With the low Canadian dollar, so many cars are getting shipped to the United States and being sold down there, especially cars that are 3 or 4 years old, as good used cars. So, hold your guns and hopefully you'll get a buyer. Country Cowboy says, Audi S3 or Subaru WRX. Tried both. WRX drives like nothing out there. S3 can't match the grip I feel on ramps. Why? Well, here's the thing. You're driving a premium product, an Audi, and you're driving what I would refer to as a boy racer, Subaru WRX. The Subaru has a raw feel to the suspension. So it's tuned that you feel all the bumps through the chassis and the suspension. So when you're on that on-ramp, you're getting, all of the you're getting all of the aggressiveness of the suspension coming through the steering wheel and coming through your backside, which is where you feel most of it is coming through your seat. The Audi, on the other hand, is a refined car. It's a premium brand, and all of those inputs into the steering and the suspension, the bushings are more compliant. So it might feel like it doesn't have as much grip, but you would actually have to do a slalom test through cones or go through that same on-ramp and off-ramp at the exact same speeds to get the feeling. If you like that raw and rough and ready feel you're going to get with the WRX, well, then maybe that's the one for you. If, however, someone like me, I drove the WRX and I enjoyed it, but I don't know if I could live with that bumpy suspension every day. I would prefer the S3, which has the grip, even though it doesn't feel like it, and a bit more compliant suspension and a bit more refined ride. And that's one of the reasons why the new Golf is selling so well, because it has many of those same Audi attributes. So that's the reason why. Louis Gayo says, hey Zach, longtime viewer, I have a question about the new F-150 Ecoboost engines. What are your thoughts on reliability and longevity of the new Ecoboost engines, especially the new 2.7 liter V6? So yeah, the old one was a 3.5. They've gone down to a 2.7. That's a small V6. And carrying lots of weight over long periods in a truck, plus the workload on the engine, especially since the Ecoboost is a mild to high pressure turbo. I know the current 3.5 liter V6 Ecoboost in the last generation has proven to be reliable. However, they haven't been out for long to judge the long-term reliability. Would you trust the reliability and longevity of these small high pressure turbo engines when carrying payload? Here's the thing about these engines. The Ecoboost engines in the F-150, be it the old 350, the old 3.5 liter or this new 2.7, can tow a lot. They do have plenty of torque because they got all that boost from the turbo. But in my opinion, they're designed for somebody that's not going to use this truck every single day. So this is the perfect for somebody that has a truck and maybe occasionally a few times a year tows a boat or takes a load of stuff to the dump or does some light duty work on a regular basis. If you're doing heavier duty work more often, I would go for the 5 liter V8. Because when those turbocharged engines are being pushed, they can provide excellent power, excellent torque, but when they're asked to do a lot of work, they suck a lot of fuel. That 3.5 liter used a lot of fuel if you got into that turbo boost. If you're only using it occasionally throughout the year, the Ecoboost I think is going to be the way to go. And when the bed is empty most of the time, it's going to get better efficiency. However, if you're using it day in, day out, week after week, I'd go for the V8. It's going to give much more consistent mileage, and it's going to have the payload that you need when you need it. Ty San says, I love your videos. Wondering which car you would recommend for fun spring and summer car. I'm currently looking at a Subaru BRZ or BRZ. However, almost the same price for $1,000 or $2,000 more, I can get a low mileage 06 to 08 Porsche Cayman. Would the Cayman be a better car for the money? I currently drive a BMW 328 xDrive sedan. It's my all-rounder. I wasn't into German cars before, When I was choosing between a brand new Camry 3 years ago and also a 3-year-old BMW, I decided to get the BMW. It's been fantastic. For the same amount of money, I could have got the brand new Camry. Let me know your insights. Thanks. That's from Ty or Tal. All right. So he's looking at a fun summer car. Porsche Cayman, hell yeah, that's a nice car. You have to do your due diligence. As I said earlier, the most reliable cars I've owned have been Porsches. And there's no question that this Porsche Cayman or any of he's looking at 06 to 08 could be very reliable. You have to get a pre-purchase inspection by somebody that knows Porsches. Don't just, you need to get it taken to a Porsche dealership or even better, a Porsche specialty shop. Now, those early Caymans and the early Boxsters and the 996 and even some of these cars, the 997, this one here, had rear main seal failures. Basically, there's a big bearing at the back of the engine, and that would grenade, and the engine would puke out oil, and basically you'd have to replace the engine. So there was a kit that a lot of people put that new seal and bearing in there and replace that. And if it's been done, they can prove to be very reliable. If you're in the market, now you're going to notice between 08 and 09, there's a huge jump in price for used Boxsters, used Caymans, and used 911s. Because in 2009, they changed the engine design and they went to direct injection, first of all, which makes the car more responsive. And they addressed this seal and bearing issue. So if it was me, I would prefer you get an 09. And the other thing is it comes with Bluetooth and connectivity for your phone if you want to play music, where the older ones don't have Bluetooth and don't have that connectivity. And you don't have to worry about that engine issue. So that's my advice. If you're really thinking of, save a little bit more and get an 09 if you can. It can be quite a jump in price because it's a much more desirable vehicle. So it's a bit of a long answer there, but excellent car. If the main seal has been done, the bearing at the back, and then that is something you can definitely consider. But if you can, save a little more and get an 09. Hey Zach, love your videos. I'm in my mid-20s, live in the suburbs of Toronto. My first car is an 05 Accord V6 sedan. I love the car. It's been great to me. I'm ready to upgrade to a newer Accord. Due to my budget, my options are either a brand new Accord 4-cylinder or a used 14 or 15 Accord V6. I want to get a brand new car that no one else has touched or driven off the line, but I want the off-the-line acceleration and low-end power. And it's because it's very important to me. I noticed you had some reservations about the 4-cylinder CVT and the CRV. I'm wondering if you feel the same way about the Accord, which share the same engine. What do you think? Now, Desmond, if you have a V6 Accord sedan now, my advice to you would be to get a used V6 Accord now. So you can afford a 4-cylinder or you can afford a used V6. If you have a V6 Accord now, I would get another V6 Accord. The 4-cylinder engines that Honda makes for these cars, they're fantastic. There's no getting around the engines. They know how to make fantastic 4-cylinder engines. I'm not entirely sold on the CVT and the Accord and the CRV. And the other thing is that you get a conventional automatic transmission, and that engine is fantastic. And I almost guarantee you that the V6s are going to be going away. They're going to be replaced probably by turbocharged 4-cylinders like everybody else in the industry, but I like the V6. Now, I took a lot of heat over the Acura RDX, the compact SUV, and one of the things I said about that car is the reason I like it is it has the tried and true 3.5-liter V6, the tried and true 6-speed transmission, no CVT, no other tricks. It's just bulletproof, Honda, reliable stuff that is built into that car. And a lot of people said, oh, it's so boring, what have you. But I'm with you. You like the V6, you like the power, you like the acceleration, that's what you should get. Just find one that's been well looked after, get it inspected, and be happy with it. All right. Once again, get those questions in if you want any questions for Volkswagen answered. Follow along at Twitter at Driving with Zach. And a lot of people are liking and following along at Motormouth Canada, the Facebook page. There you go. I'm going to have one more video blog about those Volkswagen questions when I get back. I'm going to have a Volkswagen sport wagon review before I go away for spring break with the kids. So I'm getting a lot done here. Talk to you later. Take it easy.